Hello, everyone, and good evening. I hope you are doing well. Are you on over here? Um, Everyone, let me know if you can hear me on YouTube and on Rumble because I'm not. My mic ain't showing that it's picking up, but it looks like it's on. So if you would kindly make sure I can hear you. Also, if you are here, give a thumbs up and a like. It does help the algorithm and the channel out a lot because YouTube, the algorithm will show it to more people. That is assuming you actually like the content. Anyways, everyone, I'm Drake. Welcome to Magical Coffee Hour. We get together on Sundays. We try to have a good time. We try to take some questions and answer them to the best of our ability and or admit when we can't. And if I can't, I try to get back to you at another time. All right. Hopefully you all got your beverage. Believe it or not, I actually did not get my coffee made tonight, but that's okay. I got a beverage. So we're all good. Creator and Immortal, it's good to see both of you. I'm going to take it you guys can hear me because no one's complaining yet. All right, so Creator, I'm trying to read through this, what you posted here pre-stream. I don't know if you're here or not, but tell you what, I'll answer this. Skilled, good to see you. Loud, okay, good. We are working because for whatever reason it's not showing the mic is picking up. So I was making sure we are picking up. So thank you, Immortal, for that. Because that is a good question. And in truth, this is actually a question creator that I talked about in my which one was it? It was my I think it was the journaling class where we was talking about data collection because there was a lot of talk of scientific methods in that particular workshop. So I want to say we talked about it in there. That being said, I actually am planning to do a science versus magic workshop very, very soon. It'll be available at the school as well as it'll be over on locals for the supporters for free. I may do a version of it, a short version of it, or something for the locals members. We'll see how that goes. If I do, I may actually just do it at locals and bypass the school for that particular one. We'll see. But that is a topic that's been on my mind a lot. And I do think it needs to be addressed and in some detail, more than what I can do during a live stream. Mormo, welcome. Cookie, welcome. Gene, welcome. Merry Christmas to you too. It seems a little late for Christmas. But hey, Merry Christmas. Loveless, welcome. Now, but I will try and address this to some extent. So your question I mean it's a big one. It's covering different things. It's covering science and magic. And I truly do believe that there is some concept between science and magic are the same freaking thing. In fact, many of the things that we consider modern science, medicine, they used to be considered witchcraft until we understood them. However, that does not always just make it the same thing, period, beyond a shadow of a doubt. Science is something that can be irrevocably proven or repeated multiple times. They have very, very, very strict rules and definitions for things. And if you wish to compare science and magic, you have to use the same definitions in the same way. Perfect example, the word energy. I hate this word. I despise this word in magic. I use it because it's part of the vernacular. And if you've noticed on this channel, there's many times I try not to use it actually. Because the way we use the word energy in magic and the way science uses the word energy is not the same thing. Science does not recognize some mystical, ever-flowing concept of energy out there moving that can be manipulated. That's not how the word energy is defined in science. Same way as like you've got a lot of metaphysical people out there right now who are using buzzwords like quantum physics and other things to try and make it sound like what they're saying is backed up by science when they're completely misrepresenting the words, completely misusing it, usually to sell some workshop, some course, some book, or some snake oil. They do not use the words remotely correctly. And if you message me on Gilded, I actually know a guy. He doesn't believe in the metaphysics at all, but he actually breaks this down really well. I saw one of his videos, and I loved his video because he breaks it down perfectly in my mind. Plain and simple. I do think there is a basis for they are two sides of the same coin. But if you're going to go with that basis, you have to stick with that basis. Or you have to admit it's not scientifically backed, but you're trying to apply a scientific method. Many of you know I've come on here and say I can't prove shit magically. I follow a results-based practice. I can't prove anything. In fact, no magician, no spiritualist can prove anything. They have no proof. They have faith, they have their spirituality. That's the best you can get. Okay? I have been healed of my epilepsy at least 12 times by so-called spiritualists and faith healers. Guess what? I'm still epileptic. They fucked up. They lied. They took money. So, no, they can't. Now, if you and your path want to take a certain view, that's your path. That is your spiritual path. If you want to say it's backed by science, then you have to dive into the spiritual or the scientific literature and actually work within the stringent restrictions of science. And you can't muddy the waters, and you can't misuse the terms. You can't misrepresent the terms, and you better understand the foundation of the terms before you start saying it's proven by science. That's where you're going to get in trouble. Now, there are a lot of backbiting little spiritualists who, if you disagree with them, they're going to say one thing or the other. You disagree with me, I don't give a shit, because I've said it on this channel many, 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 many times. There's no one true path. There's no one road up the mountain. Everyone has their own path. That's why this channel is results based. If it's working for you, if it's yielding the results, if it's helping you to be a better person, if it's helping you toward whatever it is your goals may be, why does anyone else's opinion matter? Seriously. Now, as far as science and magic, that's a much deeper thing. I'd have to bust out because even I can't keep all the definitions straight, and I am a science junkie. But I'd have to have a lot of the definitions in front of me because I don't use them daily. I understand them. I can have conversations, but it does help if I'm having notes. And if I'm trying to communicate that in a lesson, I want to make sure I'm spot on with my notes before I do that. But I will set up a workshop for those interested in that. Great question, though. Let's see. Hey, let's see. Henry, good to see you. Hey, Drake, Eclipse, what does it represent to you, my man? It represents a perfectly natural phenomenon in nature, nothing more, nothing less. I'll be honest with you. I mentioned this a little bit in the locals live stream this week on Friday. I've been getting panicky emails and all kinds of stuff. It's an eclipse. There's not going to be any dimensional hopping. There's not going to be any hoopla. There's not going to be an apocalypse. There's not going to be any of this. It's an eclipse. It's a natural event. And I think my wife said it best. She's like, for all these people claiming it is the end of the world, okay, sell off everything you own. Give away all your money to people who need it, because honestly, by the end of the week, you won't need it. No how. That's what you keep saying. So to me, it's just an eclipse, nothing more. I put no stock in it, just like I don't put stock in a horoscope. Or actually, I don't even put stock in my prenatal chart and star charts. Not to say that I think they're completely useless, but I don't put any stock into them. Like most people say that this is who you are. I say bollocks. That is a snapshot of the day you were born at best. And just like if I took a Polaroid of you on the day you were born, 1 year later, the Polaroid and that star chart are useless. Too much has changed. That's my 2 cents. I think there's a lot of interesting things to talk about. I do think there's a lot of interesting concepts spiritually and magically to be considered, to be thought about and discussed. And there's definitely ways to potentially use that in a magical working. That's true. But all the fear mongering and the bullshit I've seen, useless. And the other stuff, like I said, it's a great mental exercise, but that's really it. Floors, I love your dragon videos. Really helpful. Hey, glad you're enjoying those. Hopefully we can get some more out there. Love from Utah. Hey, I've been through Utah several times, and I am never not amazed at how beautiful the mountains and everything out there is. Two of the last times I went through winter. Absolutely beautiful out there. I won't lie. It's actually one of the places like me and the wife have kicked it around. Like it's popped up a time or two. Like if we retire, is that someplace we wanted to retire to? Just because it's so freaking beautiful. I think it usually gets knocked off because my wife is not a fan of the cold, and it just gets too flipping cold and snowy out there for her. Um, so, but it is beautiful. So, love me some Utah. Enjoy it out there. Enjoy it. Get out there. Enjoy that wilderness you got. Let's see. Are dreams connected at all to your spiritual body slash self? This is a very large and debated topic amongst many things because, first off, if you want to look at it scientifically, the spiritual body doesn't exist in science. So there's that. Now, in the metaphysics, that it gets debated because what is the spiritual body? Because depending on your tradition that you practice, depending on your viewpoint as a magician, that in and of itself also begins to change and shift. So if we look at the bulk of the generalized information, the spiritual body is just your constructed a construct or where your consciousness is at the time, possibly in a construct. Not your full energetic whole body, but where your current mind or consciousness is in the general. And if that's the case, then when you dream and you slip into that dream realm, whether that realm is entirely encased in that fatty substance of goo between your ears called the brain, or whether you actually go to a theoretical other plane or dimension, which by the way, no one can prove those exist again, then in that way, the dream, you would be going to said dream realm. But then you have to enter into the debate, even if that's true, is that actually useful in any way or productive? And there's a lot of magicians that, again, they argue this. There's people who make entire practices around dream practices. There's entire magicians who think it's absolute Looney Tune bollocks. And, I try to straddle the fence and consider both sides of the coin, and I've researched both sides of the coins. Of course, for me, my data and my research does fall to it largely ends up mostly useless. Or the stuff that I have seen prove useful, it takes so much extra work to even get the minor bit of usefulness out of it that there's so many easier ways to replicate the exact same result with easier methods that it feels useless to me in my perspective. So, I mean, there's the human element. I have to admit that as much as I try to stay on this fence and look at both sides and research it and continue to research it, um, you know, it's hard for me to take a hard stand on it one way or the other. You all do know, at least from my personal experience, I mean, heck, watch my video. Is magic real or just in your head? That'll kind of sum up where I view most any magic because scientifically we can't prove it. We can't prove nothing scientifically. And if you want me to say something is true, okay, for something to be a truth or a fact, and it will have to hold up to scientific scrutiny for me, period. Otherwise, it is something that is yielding results for you in some way, even if it's not a truth or a fact every time for every person in every situation. And that's usually where magic and spirituality go in most cases because of that. And I'll admit, dream work is actually one of the areas I don't spend a lot of time in because over the years that I have been practicing, it's yielded so few results that when I actually need to accomplish something, I don't go to dream magic ever. Most of my workings with dream magic is usually in a path working where the path working calls on it. And I will apply that exercise because the path working asks for it. And I want to see the results that I'm getting. And I don't alter path workings until I've worked through them once in their initial setup. And yeah, that's where most of my dream working over the last few years has been. And this day and age, I'm so busy, I have to be real picky about what I tinker with and experiment with. And I really don't foresee anything remotely in dream working piquing my interest enough that I'm going to set aside other things that have shown far more reliable and to tinker with something that has in the last 25 years proven basically unreliable. I mean, I think the last numbers that I calculated for results with dream working actually came out below 10% for me. So you can see why someone who's results based isn't going to put a lot of stock in that if they're getting below 10%, especially when my functional is 80% or better. But if you're doing dream work and you're getting results, again, like I say with anything else, if you're getting results, it's working for you, keep doing what you're doing. Um, I need stuff, give it all to me, please. There you go. There you go, right? Let's see. Mary, I've always wanted to befriend every being from childhood to this day. How did you befriend so many? I can't even get friends in real life. QQ. I say I will talk at random, but anxiety. I'm a talker. I straight up I'm a talker. Um, I will sit and I will talk with an entity for hours on end, the same way I can sit and talk with a friend. So interesting little fact. I got a friend in the admin team coming to visit me at my house for the first time ever. And I'm actually wondering if he's going to be able to handle it because I don't know that he's ever had to put up with me not having the ability to be turned off on the internet. I am a talker. It's a Southern trait. I used to get up in the mornings, go with my family. We'd get together on my grandfather's porch. We'd have coffee and we would talk. And they would go work our asses off in the day. And what did we do that afternoon? We got together and talked. Sometimes there was yelling and screaming, but ultimately we were talking. And I've always done it my whole life. I am a talker. So when it came to communicating with entities, even when I first went to the church, like the weirdest time for me was, when they say just say your prayer and listen and shut up. That was the hardest one. Once the pastor's like, you don't have to shut up, you can totally talk. Tell them about your day. Boom, doors opened up. Getting me to shut up's a trick. But beyond that, it's just I would talk with them and I would get to know them. Now there are entities I work with, but don't take that I work with an entity as I have befriended the entity. There are thousands of entities I've worked with that I haven't befriended. I hold the term friend very, very, very high. What most people call friend, I will call an acquaintance at best. Okay. If I can't trust you to have my back in a shit hits the fan situation, trust me, you're not on my friends list. You're an acquaintance. Sorry to say that, but that's the truth. When it comes to friends, I have a very small circle. Um, and the same, grant you, amongst entities, I'd say I have more friends among entities than real humans because of that. But that does mean that if we look at actual friendships of entities that I would consider friends, that is going to be a much smaller number than the entities I work with also. So you do have to consider that. Um, and the ones that I would consider friends are the ones that I work with probably weekly or monthly. And those are going to be like Odin, Freya, Loki, Thor, the nine draconic rulers. There's definitely a few specialty dragons that I work with on the regular. Um, let's see. Um, I do have a few patron entities from a closed practice that I'm not allowed to talk about that I work with. But so, I mean, I would say it's 20 or less easy that I would put in the friend category. And that's just me guesstimating. The number could be smaller or larger. I may have to sit down and make an actual list one day, but yeah. Let's see, Angela, blessing and hello, hey, Angela, good to see you. Glad you can make it. Um, we jump. That's okay. We'll just carry on where we are. What do you think of mantras? Do you recommend me anything or tips? Mantras? Mantras can be helpful. We talk about it. Do we talk about mantras in the meditation class? Um, I can't remember if I do or not. I think I do. I think I do. Um, I I've used mantras a few times. I've there's a few I like, but more often than not, honestly and truly, I find myself using a self-written incantation or prayer in the place of a mantra, and I use it in the same way repetitively over and over, repeating it. Um, so it's one of those things where everyone I meet, they either love them or hate them. Where I seem to be the odd duck because I don't hate them, but I don't love them. Like they have this sort of beautiful, repetitive, almost musical like concept to them. And I don't know if it's my love of music or my dad's love of music that he kind of taught me to appreciate that keeps me from saying I don't hate them. Or if there's just something else drawing me to them, but they're just not clicking as a mainstay for something I use. So it's hard. I highly encourage people to try them because they can be very, very helpful, relaxing, and that repetitiveness can help you get into a good meditative state or trance. And I've tried different things, and I've just had the experience has been hit or miss. Though the repetitiveness of it and everything helping with meditation, I would agree with that. I would agree with. Those work very well. I just prefer writing my own incantations or things to do that. Even using just basic runic golder in place of a mantra has helped me in many ways better to achieve the same results. So those are tend to be where I've gravitated to in my personal practice. But I'm not going to say it's going to be the same for everyone because we are all different. And I mean, they're amazing. So I would encourage you to try them and see what you think of them for your personal practice. Also, if you're here, give us a thumbs up. Let us know you like the work we're doing. Let YouTube know you like the work we're doing so they'll show more people and won't kill the channel. People always talk about loss of channels. I don't know if it's true or not. I know one of the channels I used to follow, they're saying YouTube's killing their channel. Hope that don't happen to me. Hope that don't happen to them. But if there's an algorithm thing, I'll find out about it, I guess. Hold on, it's getting a little dark in here. Let's see if I can crack this without blinding us. There we go. But yeah. Let's see. Let's see. And crap, man, I have to go to scroll, and we got no chats over here in Rumble. We're also live on Rumble. I think most of our Rumble people watch us through the week after we. Not mantras, mundras. Those are. Oh, okay. Sorry, my bad. Mundras. I used to use mundras some, but I'm going to be honest with you, I don't use them a lot. I know many people who have liked mundras. Okay. When I used them, I actually got some pretty interesting things. Truth be told, though, a few of you have caught this. Some of you have not, because some of you have asked me questions. But like if my hands are always moving or I'm doing something with them, but if my hands just sit, you'll notice that my hand doesn't really sit level. I have broke my hands, my knuckles, my fingers a lot. And they don't have the best agility for different things that they used to have. I do try to still stretch them and get them, So I've tried to get some flexibility and agility back into them. But I don't have quite the agility I used to and that flexibility. Like even doing that little finger trick can be difficult for me these days. That used to be so simple. I could do it in my sleep. Now my fingers just don't want to do it. They've been broken too many times. So I honestly don't use them as much anymore. But I would put them in the same category in that when I used them, I did find they helped in some ways. I never really got around to figuring out exactly who, what, or why. Some of the things I will still do is like when I meditate, I'll put those two fingers together, or like usually it's like this for me. And part of that, people's like, why would you do this? What is the reasoning behind this? And I actually asked one of my teachers at one point, and she was like, I'm surprised you haven't figured it out. She's like, can't you feel your pulse? I was like, well, but yeah. So this actually does help connect you with your heartbeat and your pulse to help you as you're calming down for meditation. Um, so that one I do still use. I do. A hand gesture that I use, it was taught to me actually by one of the dragons I work with. It's not necessarily part of dragon magic specifically per se. Is a little hand gesture that's like that. And you can do it with both hands. So, you got both hands. If you look at it, you got that whole dragon's triangle right in the middle. Hi, how you doing? But these fingers are essentially acting as etheric gatherers, while these two would be acting as the focal point to direct the energy. And when you're doing this, it's literally gathering it and focusing it in the center of the triangle, was the concept that was taught to me. And that particular one I do still use quite a bit, though the dragon never used that to be called a mundra. Some people might consider it a mundra. I don't know that I do. So, try them out. Try them out. If you have a few, try them out, see if you get results. They're not, like I said, I don't use them these days for reasons, obviously. When your parents tell you to take care of yourself, you'll regret it when you get older. They're not lying. Let's see, Vicky. Apparently, that is the concept. Apparently, they open energetic pathways in your body, both physically and spiritually. However, here's the kicker: even amongst people who do them daily with arcane sight open, I've seen no shifts in energy in any shape, form, or fashion. So I have nothing to back it up. I know the claims. I have nothing to back it up. So I can't sit here and say this particular gesture is freaking awesome. It's going to do this for you when I have nothing to back it up, not even remotely any experience with it or data information from colleagues or not. We don't have anything to back it up. It's really hard for me on that. So, other than like personal experience outside that, that's going to be your best way to try and see if it helps. Because some of the weirdest things can help people it just clicks and it works for them. And some people think it's almost like a placebo effect. And fine, if it's a placebo effect, who cares? If it's giving you the results, get to it. Um, da, 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 da. It's YouTube. If you don't want to see ads, I'll be honest with you. Don't think Rumble has ads, and you can catch us on Locals anytime we're over there at Locals. Locals doesn't have ads either. Oh, there's a spider in my office. That's going to bug me. Okay. Excuse me. I'll be back. Okay, I'm alone now. All right. Let's see, Marie. I want to watch that. Oh, I get that. I get that. The ads can be a pain. And honestly, weirdly, like YouTube's doing this thing now. Like even if you're not monetized, they can still run ads on your content. So there we go. Let's see. Where was it? What did the spider? He was trespassing without permission. Oops, alarms are going off again. And more. Yes, it went into the wrong house. Do I like coleslaw? Actually, I do. I'm picky about my coleslaw. I'm a Southerner, so I am picky. Um, so depending on the coleslaw, for example, and you know, I'm not just like a sweet coleslaw fan or just like a vinegary coleslaw fan. It really depends on the coleslaw and how it's done. Now, my big critique of coleslaw, if you shred up a bunch of cabbage, I don't care how colorful it is, you throw a little salt and pepper on that and call that coleslaw, I won't eat it. I'm not a raw cabbage fan. So, that's I am picky. It has to be good coleslaw. And as a Southern boy, we have standards. So if like when I go to a restaurant, especially where I'm living right now, I will not eat coleslaw where we're living right now at a restaurant because I'll be honest, this is our second time deployed to this area, and I can tell you they have never once served coleslaw that was I would call it coleslaw. It's just nasty. Honestly, in fact, there's a few most of the places here, you'd be better off trying to eat a cabbage like an apple. It tastes better. But yeah, I'm picky about my coleslaw. I am. Da, da, da. That's an interesting question, though. Don't mind. I don't mind questions about food at all. So, I mean, I talk about food enough. I'm Southern. You all know that crap. So, you got questions? I'll do my best to answer it. Let's see, Vicky. I came across a guy on TikTok. Be careful of TikTok in general. I've never seen a good presenter on TikTok, to be honest with you. I haven't found one. There's probably I stay off TikTok honestly for most of the point. But moving on, that claims to channel an extraterrestrial entity named Bashar. Have you heard of him? And what are your thoughts on channeling in general? Is it like invocation? Invocation and channeling are the same thing, point blank. That's what it is. Invocation, you're having an internal communication with the entity. Channeling, you are allowing an internal communication with an entity. Yes, they're the same thing. There's no separation. And actually, channeling is invocation that is slipping toward possession, just so you know that also. So there can be repercussions to channeling, just like there can be repercussions to invocation. I've heard a lot of people channeling these extraterrestrial entities. What do I think of it? I don't put a lot of stock in it, honestly. I get a lot of emails from these guys, and yeah, they make a lot of claims. So far, none of them's come true. None of them at all. And I've actually seen a lot of these people make a lot of claims and a lot of stupid stuff, leading up to all kinds of apocalyptic events, whether it be the Y2K bullshit. I've lived through so many supposed apocalypses, it's pathetic. And of course, now there's so many of them panicky and saying all this bull crap that they can't back up. They have no proof when it comes to this eclipse, for example. And even the ones that try to back it up by pointing to this or this or that or that, this and this, it's like they're making leaps that are not based on logic at all. In fact, one of my favorite ones that I heard, and this was actually from he actually channeled this one from an extraterrestrial. So maybe this is the same guy. I don't know. But he was talking about how NASA is trying to push Earth into another dimension because they're going to be launching rockets to study the energy during the eclipse while the Kern reactor is being fired up and the eclipse is okay. And he says the proof of this is the fact that they are naming this project. I want to say it's the dark serpent that eats the sun in Egyptian mythology. I can't pronounce the name correctly right now. And there's like, that's the proof. That's the proof. That ain't proof. That ain't proof that they're doing that. That ain't proof that your fear mongering is correct. You know what that's proof of? That is proof that scientists, including NASA, have been a bunch of nerds who follow dorky traditions like D&D forever. Look at how scientists name stuff. Look at it. We find something. They look to mythology. They say, "Hey, in mythology, this thing over here happens. Well, let's name it after that." And just because we're going to do this dorky thing. Um, and scientists, I ain't making fun of you because I love the dorky thing. Like I still quote the '80s or was it what 1990s Attack the Darkness for D&D. So I understand the love of nerd culture. And that's all it is because that exact entity was literally in Egypt the entity they accused of causing an eclipse because they didn't know what caused an eclipse back then. So the scientists are looking at that and saying, "Hey, name that." Nothing, anything more about that. So yeah, I'll be honest with you. If they're not fear mongering, if they're not pandering, if they're not trying to sell some form of snake oil, I just ignore them. I do find many of them and some of their fear mongering harmful. Because there's a lot of people who no longer critically think, period. Let's see. I'm annoying myself. Why did I? What? Are you spamming and I missed it? Oh man, if I miss it, I do apologize. Do I have any song recommendations? Well, what are we doing music for, Jen? Not Jen. Flores. What are we doing music for? Because I have a very yeah, my music collection's eclectic. Let's just be honest with you. It gets weird on my playlist, but what entity outside your closed practice has been the most difficult energy wise to work with? Chaos Dragons, straight up. Easily. I would have no issue saying that. Um, when you say energetically, I would say Chaos Dragons. Yes, channeling is effectively consensual possession. That is, yeah, it is. Also, what's your preferred go-to grocery store? Mine's Walmart. Um, we're military, so everywhere we've lived, there's a military base, and on the military base, we have the Navy commissary. It's like a military shopping place, and they have honestly great produce, great deals on meat, and being a carnivore, I love going to the commissary. Also, the pricing, especially right now where we live, um, I they beat the competition. Seriously, there's like a $4 markup just because of local taxes and fuck taxes. Um, if I can avoid paying pointless taxes out in town, I'll go to the commissary. They got it. They always have great deals, and I enjoy it. It's usually not as crowded. Usually, there are days that changes. Outside of that, I got no issues going to the Wally World. I'm not going to lie. Our Walmart here is not a super center. Their grocery section is like 2 aisles. It sucks. So, yeah. When I had a super center up until 2020, when all went to shit, I would usually do my grocery shopping at 1 or 2 a.m. And I went to Walmart to do it. Of course, then they stopped doing 24 hours and I stopped shopping there because I don't shop during the day. They threw off my groove, man. But it's nothing against Walmart. I actually like Walmart as a store. Otherwise, I go to a place like I like Sam's Club and Costco because I like to buy in bulk. Again, carnivore. I like to buy whole primal cuts and then butcher them myself at home. I love to do it. Oh, we got some stuff coming in at Rumble. Yeah, snuck on in here. Switch to Rumble, Drake. This is hey, Skilled. Great to see you. Love the name on Rumble, by the way. Navy food. Dude, well, I don't know. Air Force has some pretty preppy food. They got some good stuff. But you're right. Military food in general can bite. The alcohol is way cheap. Yes, yes, yes. Especially where I live right now. Like I can go to the commissary, 750 milliliter bottle, $20. I go out to town, mile down the road, that same bottle is $35 because of local taxes. Yay, commissary. He ain't lying about that. So you are absolutely correct. Yeah, galley food's rough, man. No, it's the same thing. Channeling is just a modern word for invocation. You are allowing an entity's energy to enter into you to channel that information. That is invocation. The deeper the invocation goes, the closer to possession you get. They're the same thing. People started using a different word because they didn't want to deal with the realities of the potential side effects that invocation can bring. And it's a lie. And actually, now we're at a point where a lot of people don't even know they're the same thing. And they thought channeling was safe when invocation was not. And it's the same thing. You change the name of it, it's still the same thing. Let's see. Let's see. Alex 222. I want to know a good ritual to do in the eclipse. I don't know your personal practice. I mean, I've been thinking about it. I thought about a few things I might try to do, but honestly, I ended up finding nothing. But one of the things that I had considered for me personally was a good, solid, strong, punchy kind of just balance ritual because an eclipse is essentially a balance of light and dark in concept. But I was planning to use, instead of light and dark, I was wanting to do a balance ritual that harnesses the solar lunar energy patterns or etheric patterns. And since they're going to be in balance, because that's what an eclipse is, right? You got this whole little woohoo. Because it's that balance of the distance and the size and everything that actually allows it to block it out. So it's a great symbolic concept of balance. And using that energetic pattern to help during that time to enhance that ritual for that balance of the lunar and solar energies to bring balance into your life, I think would be a great way to go. Personally, that's what I was thinking. But outside that, and ultimately realizing I wasn't going to do anything with it, I didn't put too much thought into it. So look at what you can, but it's still going to create an energetic shift. That shift alone can be used for any ritual. Energy is energy, or ether is ether. So you could technically use it for anything you want if you wanted to use it. Let's see. Loveless, yes, at the attack. Oh my God, somebody here knows it. Thank God. Thank God. Thank God somebody here knows Attack the Darkness reference. Let's see. Loveless, my folks shop at the commissary growing up, and yeah, the prices were insanely cheap. And mom's couponing skills, and they got through some real lean. Yeah. Absolutely. And y'all know, I've said it many times, I'm a cheapskate and a Scrooge. Y'all know that. I will save money where I can save money. I grew up dirt poor, and I learned a lot about saving money, and I'm so thankful I did. Immortal. Are there dragons for eclipses? Actually, interestingly enough, Immortal, that is actually one category of dragon I have never encountered. So I am unaware of whether or not there is any dragon specifically for eclipses. I'm going to guess not. I would say that the eclipse, whether solar or lunar, would be based more on dragons of light and darkness accordingly. And you would probably find any dragons, if they focused on those specific energy currents, which I don't think they would particularly. I'm not going to say they won't. I've seen them focus on weirder things, would fall under those two categories, which would make them higher elemental dragons if they were there. But I would guess, like if I was just guessing, looking at what I've seen, I'm thinking there wouldn't be, because even though there is an energetic shift, it is a singular event that really would be better covered in other areas, as opposed to just saying eclipse dragon, if that makes sense. Much like there's not really an earthquake dragon or a tsunami dragon. Does that make sense? I hope so. And we have a lot more earthquakes and tsunamis than we do eclipses. So that's just my logical thinking. And you feel free to disagree with me. Love has never been particularly drawn to ceremonial magic and found the explanation of invocation highly confusing. Ceremonial magic can get confusing. It can, hands down. Can you invoke a dragon? So technically, the answer is kind of yes and no on that. You can't traditionally invoke a dragon as you would traditionally invoke other entities. There's a lot of reasons for why. And the procedure to do so, I'm wanting to say they're making me wait until 103 to share that procedure, because it is so drastically different. And even the most minor of invocation with the dragons will come with some of the most major counter from other entities. Like if you're talking that process, like even deep invocation with like Odin was nothing compared to a minor invocation of a dragon. So it's not recommended, but technically possible, but not in your standard methodologies. Smith, I don't know what you mean by Disney magic. Because generally speaking, I don't use fiction for my references. Do you got any stories about your experiences with Samuel, please? I don't know what kind of stories you want. I mean, I've worked with Samuel a few times. Most of my times working with him was either with for clients or during my journeys through the cliff off. Most of which those things I honestly can't share on YouTube because that shit gets weird. But outside those, getting into specific scenarios, my work with Samuel I enjoyed it, honestly. I mean, he could be a real ball buster. He really could. And I kind of appreciate that in his personality. But at the same time, like, have you ever met somebody that no matter how harsh they are or how grumpy, you knew that everything they said to you, they were saying with an absolute reason? And that was the thing. It's like everything he said, you knew it just wasn't a waste of words. It wasn't just for fluff. He had a reason. And I really enjoyed the process through. Grant you, it was a shit show. It's the cliff off, and I had a lot of things that I had to go through that were rough. But I enjoyed having him as a mentor during that time. I really did. And toward the end, there were times when him and I would just sit and chat, and that was really when I got to see, there's the mentor side and then there's the personal side of him. And the same wisdom was carried on both, but the way he put himself at the table, the way he presented himself in his job duties, there was a distinct difference that I noticed and saw. And he is definitely a entity that I do want to hopefully spend more time with in the future. In fact, I have on my notes, I'm doing some research with the Cliffoth and dragons specifically. And I'm hoping to be able to share that, whether it be on locals or somewhere shortly. But part of that is I'm also going to be speaking with the traditional Cliffothic rulers, Samuel being one of them, in this research. And I'm really looking forward to sitting down and chatting with him again. Let's see. See, Vic, I'm going to piss a lot of people off, but I just don't get the big deal about the moon passing in front of the sun. Sure, it's not common. It's very beautiful. I'll be honest, I don't get it either. Like I said, people don't fall into the panic that everyone's stirring up, because you see it on TikTok. I saw a couple of them pop up in my YouTube feed, not as bad, but I mean, I've had people emailing me, what about this? What about this? The panic and the fear mongering these people are stirring for clicks is disgusting in my mind. An eclipse is an eclipse. Okay. It's a natural event. It's, to me, it's no different than a rainstorm. And I'll be honest, I would enjoy a rainstorm better than an eclipse, personally speaking. So if you're going to piss them off, Vitke, I'm in the same boat. Let's have some coffee and enjoy it together, pissing them off, right? Because I don't see the big deal. Flores, what is our biggest enemy when doing spiritual practice? Self-doubt. Absolutely self-doubt. I've worked with a lot of students over the years, and our own self-doubt, our own lack of belief in ourself, is our biggest enemy, hands down. So when you're looking at a spiritual practice, the reason I don't use the word spiritual, I use self-mastery, self-empowerment, those things, because I want you to understand, to build yourself up, okay, to truly empower yourself. If all you're ever doing is, let's say you master evocation, great, but all you ever do with evocation is conjure up an entity and say, hey, I don't want to do this myself. I can't do this. I want you to do it for me. You are just reinforcing the fact that you can't do this yourself, that you're powerless, and instead you always have to go to an external power or entity or something outside yourself to ever accomplish anything. You're never conquering that doubt. Now, truly speaking, I don't think unless you conquer self-doubt, you'd actually get to the point where you could master evocation to that level. That's just an example. But it's our doubt. We're always second guessing ourselves. We're always doubting ourselves. And even when you do spell work, like even if the spell's slow, you'll start doubting whether or not it worked. And that can actually cancel out your own magic. You will get in your own way. Your self-doubt is hands down, in my opinion, our biggest enemy every time. We have to learn to start believing in ourselves. Okay. And that doesn't mean become an egotistical dick. That means believe in yourself, but also attempt to remain humble and open-minded and to critically think and examine everything. If that makes sense. Good question, though. Let's see. Invocation seems to have more procedure versus channeling is in an informal agreement and go. Actually, no. Invocation is not a very structured practice at all. There are structured versions of invocation, but there are also very unstructured versions of invocation, just like evocation. I don't need a ritual for evocation at this point in my life, just as I don't need any rituals or anything for invocation at this point. And the results are the same. And in fact, if you open your arcane site and look at someone doing channeling, and you open your arcane site at someone doing invocation, the energetic shift is exactly the same. The exact same thing is happening. So people can define it how they want, but that doesn't actually change what's actually happening. Alexis, do you remember the first sphere of Cliffoth advice? I plan on opening sphere of the Cliffoth this year. I do remember my lessons there, but the lessons there will be different for every individual. My lessons will not help you at all. I would say take your time. Be sure you know what you're doing. Um, do not run away from it. Do not. If you open the sphere, you have to deal with the consequences. There is no pause. There's no backing out. A Clefothic sphere, once opened, will affect your life. And as someone who done this, you don't want to open it and ignore it because your life will go to hell quickly. The changes, the energetic restructuring will happen with or without your approval if you open that door. I highly recommend you be an active player and take an active role in making the changes that are needed because they're going to happen with or without you. They'll just be a lot more pleasant if you're willing to face the music, as it were. It's not a pleasant experience, I can tell you that. But yeah, that would be my big thing. And everyone has different lessons, even though the spheres focus in certain areas. The lessons for each person is going to be different. The things that you're going to have to learn in that particular realm are going to be different than what I had to learn. We got different things to face. Skill asked me, how long did it take me to fully awaken my third eye? I'll be honest with you, I don't know. I don't have an exact number on that. I want to say about a year or two, depending, because working on my arcane senses was just something I did. And it was something that through meditation and other things, my teacher knew I was developing well, but they didn't particularly tell me anything specific. So I didn't know if I was doing good or not. It was just like, okay, I'm supposed to be doing this. I'm supposed to be trying to get this result. Let's see what I can do. So at that point in time, I had no reference or concept of what it would be like in time. And originally, I just got it to where I could get the practices to function. I wasn't looking for HD or anything or high graphics, nothing. So I was at a very comfortable place within 1 to 2 years, and I really wasn't striving for anything more than that. And true, over time of just practice, it got better and better and better. But so it depends on what you mean. Like if you ask me just where was I happy with it, 1 to 2 years, I was actually very happy with it, and really wasn't focusing on training it at that point. It was like 5, 6, 7 years later before I started trying to focusedly train it past the functionality point. And it's just like once I got too functional, it was just never a high priority for me. So it just developed naturally after that. I think one of the things a lot of people run into is perfection paralysis with the arcane senses because they want it to be as tangible and real as reality. If they can't see it as real as you can see this water bottle, then they're not functional to people's minds. And that's just not the truth. That's just not the truth. They're very functional even way before that. So our over perfection might sometimes get in the way. I know I've seen that with a lot of my students, but they have continued to develop over the years, obviously. But I never kept a record of it because, unfortunately, much like I still don't really give a damn about graphics on TV or in video games, it never was one of those things that was a priority to me. I was more of the information junkie, and if it was functional to get me the information I needed, hot damn, you know? So that's the best I can do is give you that 1 to 2 years to functional point, and then I just didn't keep records. I apologize. Okay, we are getting close. Let's see if I can grab another one or two here. Everything I've read about Zip Invocation. I don't know where you're reading it. I mean, most books I read actually play it pretty loosey goosey. In ceremonial magics, they get very rigid, yes, but they're not. Yeah, they get very very loosey goosey. I've actually read a lot of channeling books that get very 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 uber rigid too. Let's see. Creator. Hey, sorry, I'm late. Did I miss anything? If you're just getting here, yeah, you missed quite a bit. You missed quite a bit because we got like 30 seconds before we got to get going. By the way, people, we won't see any clocks thrown unless Immortal or somebody wants to throw them because Jade is on vacation. And I think she's actually driving home now. So, Jade, if you are listening, drive safely, and don't speed if you can avoid it. You're probably going to speed. Who am I kidding? Um, let's see. Danny Doom. Howdy. Howdy. How you doing, Danny? Fantasia. I don't see Jack. I have. So I know that something has. Yeah, again, like I've done a video on aphantasia, Loveless. Check that one out because you're right. It's still possible to use your arcane senses with aphantasia. It is. Again, people try to put too much emphasis on the senses as they are important, but they try to over perfect them to the point that they never succeed. And I've actually had a few people say that there's a lot of magicians who say and are teaching you must perfect them to that absolute HD thing in order to prevent people from progressing because they know perfection isn't possible and that prevents them from progressing. It sounds a little conspiracy to me. I would say they're probably more likely trying to sell you something than just prevent you from ever growing, which, I mean, you could say that that's a conspiracy, but, I don't like snake oil salesmen no matter which way we slice it. So, I'm not going to judge a person's motives. I'm just going to speak what I have found with working with my students, my other colleagues and everything. And it doesn't have to be perfected. And even if you can't see, you're still very functional. Even with aphantasia, you can pull it off. So yeah. How do you even find a teacher? I found a solitary in my practice. I do well. I honestly trip and fell over my teacher quite literally. Well, uh, how do you put this? I passed out, nearly died. I woke up looking at my teacher, and that individual flat out looked at me and said, "I shouldn't have saved you. I hate you." And I was like, "Cool, thanks." And this individual and I were in a situation we had to continually encounter each other multiple times, and over time, whether it be them smugly shooting snippily at me or talking to a colleague of mine, got to know each other and ended up actually becoming the best of damn friends. Weird start, but and when I met her, I didn't believe in magic, hands down, point blank, I didn't. I thought what she did was a bunch of woo woo horse shit. And when I was doing my theological studies, I approached her and I told her point blank, I was like, I don't believe in a bunch of this spiritual crap. I was like, but I'm at a point where I need to look at a larger picture and I want to understand your beliefs if you're okay having that discussion. And she was. And honestly, she was fascinated with the way my brain worked, trying to go on this theological journey of studying and asking questions across multiple platforms. And my first little toe dip into magic also came through her trying out different experiments and whatnot. Um, and then it was her grandmother that, you could say, shoved me into the pool on a cold, rainy day in order to really shotgun my life into a new course. So yeah, I really tripped and fell over my mentor. And honestly, even looking back, like a lot of people's like, that was so horrible for her. I fully understand her opinion. I understand her viewpoint back then. I don't begrudge her that one bit. It's actually a story to this day her and I will share and laugh about, even in public. So yeah, I love her to death, hands down. Absolutely. As to how you find one, honestly, I usually don't tell people. I don't usually recommend trying to find one. That's part of the reason I do this. There's so many charlatans out there trying to take advantage of people. And many of you know I used to do some PI work and everything. And even my investigator friend's still active. There is so much abuse, other horrible things that happens inside these communities that people want to use their positions of power, whether it be in a coven or circle or whatever it is, to abuse other people. It makes me sick. So by and large, and I'm jaded from the things I've seen in my life, and the fact you all know I truly think humans are the most evil thing in the multiverse. I also think we have the most potential to be some of the most wonderful. We just waste it and throw it away. So I admit to my jaded view, and I don't hide that. But that's also one of the reasons I make teaching materials so available for you as an individual who wants to pursue a path and learn, that you don't have to wander out into these areas that can sadly become predatory. That's also another reason for the motivation of me making sure even at the school my prices are way, way down. You could sell aluminum cans for a month and buy one of my courses. It's hard for me to talk about because of the stuff I've seen. Sorry. But it's something that really gets to me, and I want to try and make sure to make information available so that those shit bags, not all of them shit bags, I'll admit that, but for the shit bags out there, I want to make it less and less needed for people to go to them, if that makes sense. Let's see. I think that's got everything. All right, everyone, we are going to go ahead and get off here before we go down another memory trail that depresses me. That one didn't really depress me. That still makes me laugh when I think of how I met Raven back all those years ago. And she still puts up with me for some reason. She actually considers me family. And, well, I consider her family. So go figure. We're family now. All right, everyone, you have a fantastic week. Enjoy the eclipse. Please don't panic. Don't freak out. Don't worry. Like I said, if some apocalyptic event happens, sure, if you can prove the eclipse did it, I'll correct my statement. But I'll be honest, people, it's an eclipse. There's nothing to it. Have a wonderful week. Enjoy yourselves. Stay safe. And I'll see you all next week for next Magical Coffee Hour. Or, well, actually, I'll see you Tuesday. We got another video coming out Tuesday on lives. By the way, just so we know, I'm going to try and start doing all the videos for, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Yes, those. Because due to time zones, I've been getting freaking confused of what days, what and when and why and how. And if I'm getting confused as the creator, you guys have got to be getting confused as the viewers. So I'm just going to lock in my live streams. When I do a live, it's always going to be at that time. And that's when I'm going to do it. That way, everybody knows. And whether you can watch it live or you're just catching the replay, you know when it's going to be there. And we don't have to keep all these different calendars and calculations and all that, right? We're just going to do 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That way, we just know. And if I don't show up, you know I'm having technical difficulties, or I don't know, maybe I fell down and got a leg cramp in the yard, and I'll be there eventually. Don't worry. Probably technical difficulties, let's be honest. All right, everybody, take it easy. Have a good one. Good night.